Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode. I am so excited to introduce our guest today. She is a specialist in something not every real estate investor may be familiar with, and that is probate investing. And she's combining it with smart marketing. So, Sharon Vornholt is a seasoned real estate investor, marketing strategist, and nationally recognized probate investing expert with almost 3 decades of experience in the industry. So, she is going to be able to share so much with us. And since 1998, she has built a reputation for helping investors and agents generate consistent, high quality leads through probate and direct mail marketing strategies. She's also a real estate and business coach, and she specializes in teaching entrepreneurs how to create effective marketing plans, attract motivated sellers, and really stand out through powerful personal branding. She's the creator of the Louisville Gals Real Estate blog, where she's sharing actionable insights, training, and resources for investors at every level. She's also an accomplished author, podcaster, and educator, and she's hosting the popular Let's Talk Real Estate Investing podcast. So, through her content, coaching, and speaking, she's empowering real estate professionals to build scalable, profitable businesses with confidence. Hi, Sharon. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Krista. Thanks so much for inviting me.
We are so happy to have you here. I've done some real estate investing myself, although probably not as much as you've done. Only one of my deals that came out of everything I did was a probate deal, though. So I've been really excited for our conversation because I really want to understand a lot more about probate investing and how to take that and turn that into a growing scalable business. But I really want to know, how did you get here? Share with us a little bit about your background.
Well, it wasn't a straight line. I will say that I had another business that I opened in 1991. It was a real estate related business, and I started investing part time in 1998. An agent walked in and said, happened to stop by my office and said, "Would you like to go to a RIA meeting?" And I said, "Well, okay, what's a RIA meeting?" I did not really know about the world of investing. I had lots of agent friends. I mean, I knew about it, but I wasn't in it. So I started going to my local real estate investor meetings. For someone that might know what that stands for, our RIA meeting. But I just, for 10 years, I just invested part time. I started out as a rehabber, and I would rehab and then make some money and get a couple of little buy and holds. And in the market, when the market shifted, for anyone that was in real estate in 2008, the market shifted and people could not get a loan. So it was a terrible place to be if you had properties to sell. It went from, if you had a job and were breathing, you could get a loan, to no one wanted to give anyone a loan. So I pivoted in 2008. I decided to go full time into real estate at what was the best of times and the worst of times. And I became an accidental wholesaler. And looking back on it now, I could not believe that I had been in real estate for 10 years and had never wholesaled a property. But I had not. And I had in my sphere, my real estate world, I had investors that were, some of them were engineers and things like that, that invested. They had really booming investment businesses, but they didn't have time to market. They didn't have time to look for property. So, but they had W-2 jobs, and they could still buy properties and get a loan. So that was the key thing. And what I'd always been good at through the two businesses was direct mail marketing. And I just took that and transferred it to the second business. And at the exact same time in 2008, I've discovered probates quite by accident. There was no information on probates. And when I say no one was working these leads, I do mean no one was working these leads. So I had to spend the next few years putting together systems, figuring out for myself how it all worked. And all of these things led me to get into the teaching world, to get into podcasting, to writing articles on a blog, because I never once thought, how am I going to monetize this at that time? Because I was there to educate and to keep people, and especially women, who at that time did not feel like there was a seat at the table for them in real estate investing in most places. I wanted them to have the education and to build their confidence that anyone could do this. You just needed the right mentors and the right tools and that sort of thing. So it was all 100% by accident.
Wow, that's an incredible story. So I like to think real estate kind of meets you where you are. One of the things I love about it is you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to have had any particular type of
Mm-hmm.
previous experience.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to a lot of people that have never wholesaled before.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, it's their entry point in.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting that you say that you had been in this for a while and then came across wholesaling,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there went into probate. Talk
Mm-hmm.
to us a little bit more about what probate investing really is.
Okay, so when someone passes away, they either have a will or they don't have a will. And probate is a legal process that is required by every state. If it meets certain criteria, and if you own a property, it's going to meet that criteria. Sometimes, if you have what's called a small estate, and that is vastly different from Kentucky to California. Some states, the threshold is $25,000. Some states, it's maybe $1 million. But if you have a property, and regardless of whether you died with or without a will, unless you willed that property, let's say someone in your family passes away, your parent, and they said, I'm directly willing this property to Krista, you're going through probate. And what happens in probate is it's really a very straight line process. Someone passes away, the estate is opened, and then that's when the judge says, is there a will? That's called testate. If there's no will, that's called intestate. But what happens is they appoint the person who's going to be in charge. It will be called an executor if there's a will. It will be called an administrator if there's no will. But jointly, they're called the personal representative. And why do you need to know this? Well, you need to know this because this person who has just been appointed is the only person that can legally sell the house. So the person that owned the house has passed away, and now let's say Krista is I call them the decision maker. Someone else can show you the house. A family member can tell you about the house. That's all okay. But when it comes to signing the contract, the personal representative is the only person that has the legal authority and the legal right to sell that property or anything in the estate. Now, once this is opened, people think you have to get to the bottom of this process to buy property, and that is where they really get confused. Right now, once the personal representative is appointed and the estate has been opened, that's when the property can be sold. If you're an agent listening, that's when the property can be listed. So everything in the estate will be converted to cash. You cannot do creative finance deals in a traditional probate deal because everything has to be converted to cash. The creditors have to be paid, and they are anybody that's owed money to. It could be credit cards. The person might still have a mortgage. It would certainly include things like if they were in a nursing home or a hospital, whatever their bills are, they have to be paid. And then and only then do the heirs get what they're inheriting. So this is what makes them motivated to move this process along. They've lost someone, but they realize they have to take care of the business of settling the estate. It's required by law. And so they're on board with moving this along so that they can get back to their real life. They have kids, they have sports, they have, spouses, they have jobs, they have all the things. And now they've got this big job of settling this estate on their plate. So it's important to realize people get hung up on the mindset things around probate. These people, if they call you, you know with 100% certainty they want your help. They just want you to help them move on with their life. You're not taking advantage of anybody. It's not creepy. It's just like, hey, I've got a problem. You're a real estate investor. Can you help me solve my problem? I need to sell this property. So once you look at it through the correct lens, then it's just like any other real estate deal.
So we had a property under contract, and it was a probate deal, and we
Hmm.
had written the offer with a hard money close, and we ended up
Hmm.
having to convert that offer the day of court. Our agent went in to represent us to all cash in order to successfully close the property. Can you talk to us a little bit, in case there's other investors out there whose model includes hard money, about why that is? And I'm
Oh,
wondering if that varies state to state.
I've never heard of that because hard money, private money lenders, they're all cash like buyers. If you have a HELOC on your house and you bring a check from, that line of credit that you have, you are, for all intents and purposes, a cash buyer. So that has not ever been my experience here. You have to be a cash like buyer. So, I've mentioned that you can't do creative finance on these particular deals because everything has to be divvied up to the heirs and they want the cash. But no, I think maybe somebody was misinformed because I've used hard money to close probate deals.
That's really interesting. This particular deal was in California.
Hmm.
And I know California can sometimes,
Hmm.
no offense, California can sometimes be a problem child. So do you
Hmm.
find, that there is variation between the states and what that probate experience is going to be like?
It's pretty much uniform across the state, across the country, except for California. And, but it's doable. People successfully do it. But you have to, if you Google where you live, what is the probate process for my state? You will get a printout and it will tell you exactly what you have to do. I don't recommend trying to settle an estate yourself because if you do one thing out of order, they're going to start you over and you're going to lose your mind. But it's actually pretty straightforward. The process I told you holds true in pretty much every state. Now, I do know from knowing people in California. See, if you're here, there's no appraisal. If we make an offer on a property, a distressed property, and the seller accepts it, it's just a done deal. But I've heard of people in California having to get appraisals, having to go to the court and do all sorts of crazy things. But and I've had students in California, and they have educated me on the differences. But it's generally in most places just like any other deal. But know your laws in your state. Google the process. Like I said, it's a straight line process, and I have a freebie that you can get. It's called a probate investing starter kit, and it has the process I just outlined. I show it in a graph form. So one day in 3 months from now, when you come across a probate deal, you go, okay, what exactly did she say about that? And then you can check your state and know which direction to go.
Oh, I love that. I love kits. Anything with a system, something with
Hmm.
step-by-step instruction,
Hmm.
so you know where your guardrails on, or your
Hmm.
guardrails are, excuse me. Um, what do you think makes these leads different really from other motivated seller opportunities? And how should investors think about approaching them?
Well, what I said, they need to sell the property. If it's in probate, it is going to be sold. Now, you probably know this. Let's say you are a married couple, and you would most likely have something. But here, it's called a survivorship deed. Like if one a person in the marriage passes away, the house automatically goes to the other person. Now, there are ways that properties can be passed through direct inheritance. But you would be amazed at the people that don't do any estate planning. Uh, I mean, wealthy, wealthy people, and then the whole thing ends up tied up in probate for for a while. Probate here is actually a pretty fast process most of the time. But what you need to know is that these are simply people just like you and me that you have a conversation with, and you um, figure out what the problem is. Obviously, they have a property to sell, but there's always something else. And that's the question you need to ask. And one of the biggest things that it is for them is they need help cleaning out the house. Now, what they'll do is they'll go over there and they'll take mementos, they'll take things that are valuable to them, certainly jewelry and things like that. They might take a few pieces of furniture. Some people will clean out the house. Many people will close the door and say, I'll come back in 2 weeks. Then they come back in 2 weeks and they go, nah, I'm going to go to lunch with Krista today. I'll do that next week. And over time, you know how things grow that you let go.
Yes.
They just can't do it. So what I've always offered to do, and I put this in my contract, is when you have gotten everything out of the house that you want and you just want to have somebody else take care of it, we will clean out the house for you. Now, if let's say you're wholesaling the property, I'm not personally moving that furniture out, and I'm going to put that on a line item for the person I'm selling the property to. Um, it's simply like you would figure repairs on any property. This is just a line item, but that takes that whole big gigantic ball and chain off their plate. So figure out what they need. Oftentimes, people find out that their parents have code violations or they failed to pay their taxes.
Mhm. Yes.
And you know this. You just simply say we can just roll that into the closing. You just lower your offer. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of that.
Wow. Yeah. So I can imagine there's a lot of emotion surrounding those
Mhm.
types of situations, and that sellers can be particularly emotional. And so it
You
sounds to
know,
me like you're coming in and you're offering some support there through the way that you're writing the offer, in terms of like, we just want you to get the things that
mhm,
matter to you, and then you're going to be able to move
mhm.
on.
Right. And people think that they have this vision in their head that they're going to talk about this terrible thing that happened to their loved one. And I can tell you since 2008, no one has ever had that conversation with me. No one. Now, sometimes you will know if what has happened, like maybe it was on the news. So let's say someone was in a car accident or something like that. They're never going to bring that up. And I go in and here's a trick that I use. I call it look for visual clues. So, and these are conversation starters, and it takes all the awkwardness out of dealing with probate sellers. If you see, for instance, you know that the dad has passed away, and you see golf clubs or tennis rackets in the corner. You might say, "Oh, was your dad a golfer? Was he the tennis player?" It doesn't matter what the answer is. You just opened up the door. Uh, yes, he was, and and if you're a golfer, oh, I'm a golfer too. If you're not, you can say, "I always wanted to learn to play golf, but I can't seem to tee off correctly." My point is, it's just a starter. If you go in there and for instance, that the person passed away was a woman, a mom, and you go in the kitchen and you see cookbooks everywhere, and you might say, "Oh, was your mom the cook, the person that cooked on all the holidays?" They'll go, "Yes, we had all of our holidays here." Yes, there is emotion around that, but it's not crying emotion, because remember when someone passes away, they open that estate on their own time. There is not really a timeline for opening it. They sort of want you to go ahead and get it open and move forward, but it might be 6 months or a year that the person passed away. So when
Wow, I
they
didn't know that.
open the estate, they are saying they're raising their hand to say, "I'm ready to move on with the sale of the property."
So how do you teach your students to build a marketing plan in order
Mm.
to find these leads, right? To connect with these sellers.
Mm. I can tell you that they do not welcome a knock on the door. They don't welcome a cold call. I always tell people, remember somebody's mama passed away, or somebody they're close to. The way I teach people to do it, and this has kind of evolved over the years, folks, because we send sequential letters. Just this is who I am. This is what I do. Simple one-page letter, which is in the probate investing starter kit, by the way, one of the letters. But generally, this is how I can help you. And the overreaching message is, I'll be here when you're ready. So there's no pressure, no calm. You've certainly put all your contact information and all that in there. And But the one thing that has changed with all the online stuff is that we always sent the letters, and I still like to do this personally, as long as the property is available. And in most states, it's going to be over and done in somewhere between 6 or 8 months and 14, 15 months from the time they open the probate. So these are not long time periods. But some people have had good luck after about 5 or 6 months when they see you're building the know, like, and trust thing. This is not just a marketing campaign, this is a branding campaign as well. You're saying, I'm Krista, and this is what I do. You say that, and this is what I do. I help people just like you in these situations, and I'm a probate expert. That's what I focus on. So this is how I can help you, but you can contact me, when you're ready to sell. Maybe your next letter starts out, hey, I'm just checking in. You know, Later on, how's the estate coming? Is there anything I can do for you? I have some resources. But over the reason I like sending the letters at least for 6 months is because they feel like they know you. Now, they have already X'd out the guy's name who knocked on their door with a bouquet of flowers the day after the funeral. Don't ever do that. Um, these people, yes, the marketing is different in that they're not really, they don't really welcome cold calling and door knocking and things like that. But you can transition in some markets, in a lot of markets, you know, get your branding out there, let them know who you are, and then you can start checking in by text every other time or something. You can adapt and see what works in each individual marketplace. So that is what has changed but they have to know who you are or they're not going to welcome your text. So you're building a marketing campaign. You mail everybody every month, not every 6 weeks, not every 2 weeks, about every 4 weeks. You skip the month of December because those first holidays are very hard on people. You just don't let them be. So, and then resume back after the holidays in January. But they're really, kind of have to test every market, but I can tell you that this works in every market. I know people doing high volume deals, and direct mail works. People say, oh, that's really old school. But guess what? It works.
How many probate deals would you say you think are sitting right now in the market in the country?
That depends on your market. Okay, so I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, and I keep my list pretty tight. I know, or I don't buy in really super expensive areas that would be hard for me to sell to. I like to focus on bread and butter properties and what I call one step up properties. You can sell those all day long. You can rehab them, you can rent them, but once you get out of a certain range, everything becomes harder. I also take out all of the zip codes that are not areas that are safe areas or areas I would want to work in. So in my area, you're probably going to get about, by the time I take out everything I don't want, and we just fly through the property assessment uh, site and go, yes, yes, no, yes, yes, heck no. It's that sort of thing. So we get the list tight because you don't want to waste your money on something that you really wouldn't buy. So here we would get anywhere from 60 to, well, more like 80 to 120 leads a month. It was, I love for people to be able to get a list of 800 or 1,000 names that they're mailing consistently. And then every month you add last month's probates to your list. And people are falling off because some will list the property, some will say, my sister's buying it, for whatever. But so your list will stay pretty consistent. Now, if you are in Chicago, there are 800 or 900 a month. If you are in LA, I have no idea, a lot. So population based, what's the population where you live, Krista?
Oh, wow, that's actually a really great question. I don't know offhand, but it's in the millions because I'm in the, greater Phoenix metropolitan area.
Okay, yeah. So you are in a big area. So it's very location dependent. Here we are just over 1 million, so relatively small. I mean, I think Houston is what, 2, 3, 4 million, maybe bigger than that. Chicago has 9 million people. So what I have found just really this is kind of just a number. It's like somewhere around 100 per million, something like that, leads a month. And you cannot possibly buy 100 properties a month. So you're looking for the cream of the crop. You're looking for whatever let's say in Chicago, I know a lot of people up there, they have villages and say it's so massive and so big, probably a lot like Phoenix. They don't work everywhere. So they keep their list tight. They work in tight little areas and they focus on those areas. And that's where you'll have your best success. You can, as you scale up and you get more leads, like I said, your goal should be to get my dream would be to have a list of about 1,000 people. I could have a list of 1,000 leads, but they would not be leads that I would want. So therefore, I keep my list tight, and I think that's where you have more success. Know your strengths, know your everything that you do. But that's just a general guideline. But statistically, with direct mail, you need 800, somewhere 700 or 800. You're getting a 1 to 2% return. So if for round numbers, if you're doing 1,000 and you get a 2% return, that's 20 calls. Maybe you'll look at 4 or 5 properties, maybe less, maybe more, and you should get a deal or two. Now, there's a ramp up period with direct mail. It's well documented. Will you not get deals in the beginning? That's not true. But however, 81% of your deals will come after on or before your 5th mailing. That's your deals. That's not your calls. So that's in 4 months. If you mail today, 4 months from today, you will be on the 5th mailing. And that's when you start to really build momentum. It's kind of like Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect. You don't stop your marketing, and then just keep doing what you're doing. Focus on building your back end systems. Who's going to answer your phone? Now the difference between when I started and right now is you can outsource everything, and it's way cheaper than doing it yourself.
Interesting. So are you
Mm-hmm.
focused in just Kentucky or are you looking in other states as well?
Just Kentucky, because you have to know the property values. You have to know the laws of the state. And if you are in any kind of a decent metropolitan area, you will have more leads than what you could possibly want. You would have to have boots on the ground in other areas. It's very safe to invest in your own backyard if you're somewhere where you can, do that. It's hard to buy property in LA and places like that, and as an investor.
If you're not there. So you like to
If
stay
you,
real local to your
mm-hmm,
area. So
mm-hmm,
interesting. Okay, so by month 4, maybe month 5, now you should be really looking at having picked up your first property.
mm-hmm.
Okay. And
You
then what
can't
happens
I can't
next?
promise that, but that's statistically that's how it works.
Okay. So then let's say, for instance, you've now got your property under contract. What does that
Mm-hmm.
process look like from here?
It's just the same as, like I said, what I do differently with probate closings. And since in recent years I was wholesaling most of them, is when I put the property under contract, I already know who my buyer is going to be because I know my buyer's list. I knew exactly where they like to buy. And I would call them from the property when I looked at the property and had it under contract. And I would say, for instance, John, I've got this property. I'll give you a 24-hour heads up on it. You can go see it before I send it out to the rest of the list. They would always go because, see, I knew them very well. I knew what they were looking for, what they wanted to pay, how many bedrooms they wanted. And they would call me from the house and say, "Oh, I'll take it. I'll send you a contract and send you some money when I get home."
So
And it was
what does your contract look like then with the seller? So is it someone else is able to come in and assume it, or you're doing something a little bit more advanced, like you've got an LLC where you add someone in and take yourself out? What does that look like?
Well, it's a simple one-page contract that we use here, and my real estate attorney, who's also an investor, which I highly recommend have. We close with attorneys here. If you, I like using attorneys that are familiar with real estate. So when a glitch comes up, as they often do, they know how to fix it because they probably had the same darn thing happen. But it's the same process. But what I'll do is I'll send both contracts over at one time. And the reason I do that is because you want to be sure there are no title issues. I know this person is going to buy it, so they can benefit. They do one title search. I get to be in control of where the closing is because I don't want to close with an attorney who's not an investor who says, no, you can't assign that contract, or no, wholesaling's illegal. Don't you know that? Crazy stuff like that. But it's it's all pretty straightforward. I do not like to assign contracts, and here's why. And I will say this is very area specific. It's if it's very expensive to close where you are, then you may have to assign the contract and figure out with the attorney or your closing company. They'll sometimes let you put down a marketing fee or some type of a fee. Here, I have an LLC, but I buy the property in a trust, a land trust. That's just the way we do it. And so then in my world, it's not super expensive to close. So I will always double close.
Okay.
Because when the seller finds out that you're going to make a boatload of money, they lose all sensibility about, yeah, it's going to cost $100,000 to fix the house up. So yes, but they all they see is, oh my gosh, I should have never sold the property for this little money. I like to double close, and it's easy where I am. It's not that easy in some areas where they have tax stamps and all sorts of weird stuff to do. So you have to know the laws of your state too. Wholesaling has different rules today, and you have to highly recommend everybody have a real estate attorney on their team. Not someone that you're keeping on retainer, but someone that you give business to, that you can ask, send them questions, and they can help you, deal with these landmines.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like depending upon where you are, that process might be a little more simple or a little more complicated. So, what's your best advice for how a new investor who's interested in probate can shorten that learning curve and really become profitable faster?
I would look in your local real estate investing group. We have several real estate attorneys in our group. And all you have to do is say, "I'm looking for an attorney." And tell them you're new. You've been highly recommended. Can I buy 15 minutes of your time? And they'll always say, "Hey, come over in the corner and we can talk for a few minutes." But if you have to go in and sit down with them, have them just keep you from making a whole bunch of mistakes. Pay them a couple $100 or whatever they're asking, and just say, can I do this? Can I do this? What do I need to avoid? What's the process here? They're more than happy to do that, and that will save you so much grief and so much time. But work with people that have done this before. It's very similar everywhere, but there are nuances, like I said, between different states.
Yeah, it seems that way. So, Sharon, what would be like one takeaway, one piece of advice for everybody listening who's really interested in what their next step should be?
Well, I think you need the education, and I think because it takes the whole mindset piece out of it. You have to adjust your mindset, and you have to understand their mindset. So make yourself educated about probate in general. I have a course, Probate Investing Simplified, but I also have a ton of free resources. Um, I will give Krista the link for the probate investing starter kits, completely free. It has a sample letter, it has the timeline, and just some other things you can do. But once you understand, there is a roadmap to follow. It's not complicated. You do need to Google and build yourself out digital assets or folders, however you like to do it, for what is the exact process in your state. you're going to find that most of the states, the deal will be no different than the deal that you do. So that's the first piece of information. But if I leave you with one thing, I want you to understand that you have to do marketing. Nothing's going to come in your door, but there's a steady stream of leads to pull from that were $10 a lead when I started many years ago that I have a source for that about 25 or 30 cents a lead. And they are skip trace. It's a company that I work with to get my leads. So I have no problem recommending them. And they can email me if they would like to have the name, no obligation here because I just love this company. But understand that marketing is so, so important. But marketing and branding are like a couple. And that's what you need to understand. You have to build a brand around your expertise. You have to show up all the time as the expert. Like I said, you can do that through direct mail. So marketing is how you get leads, but branding is why they choose you.
Oh, I
That's
love that. Okay.
that's
Marketing and
just
branding are
remember
like
that.
people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. So,
Mm-hmm.
Sharon, tell everybody if they're interested in connecting with you, either for the company that you are sourcing your leads through, or they just want to know
Mm-hmm.
more about you and how to pick up your free kit. Can you give the
Yes.
information on where they can go to find to find you?
Yes, they can get the kit. If you have any problem with this link, I'll give you my email. But it's probateinvestingsimplified.com/starter kit. So that's the direct link that will put you on my list to get any updates or anything like that. But they can email me at sharon@sharonvornholt.com. They just look at my name down here. And I'm happy to answer any questions because I know it seems overwhelming. It seems like to a lot of people, like, I can't do that. I just can't do that. It is the best. There is no other guaranteed source of leads on the planet every single month. And there's a term called the silver tsunami. That's what we're in now. There's about 76 million baby boomers that it's the biggest transfer of wealth in the history of ever. And these people are aging out. They're downsizing. There are lots of probates. So there will never be another opportunity like this because the baby boomers are the biggest group of people, number wise of all. So there is never a better time to jump into probate investing.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you, Sharon, for coming on
Mhm.
today and being our guest. Guys, if you're listening to this conversation and you are interested in real estate, but you're also interested in helping people, take a
Mhm.
second, jump on out to Sharon's website at probateinvestingsimplified.com, put in that /starter kit, put in your information, and download her free information so that you can begin to get started in probate investing. Sharon, thanks again for being our guest
Mhm.
today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.